Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. Before I get into today's video, I'd like to give a special thanks to today's sponsor, Opera GX. The funny thing about this sponsorship is that when they reached out, I was already making the switch myself, and let me tell you why. For one, other popular browsers can be very resource hungry, causing a serious spike in performance. Opera GX, on the other hand, comes with a GX control feature that allows you to set a limit on the CPU and RAM it can use. This is very useful and allows me to have a browser up during editing. You can even throttle the bandwidth usage, freeing it up for other uses like streaming. The presentation of the browser is also really nice. You can customize it with a ton of themes inspired by the look of neon lights, with light and dark variations for them. You can also add your own wallpapers to the homepage to customize it to your liking. And speaking of the homepage, it's been specifically optimized for gaming fans, with info about gaming news, upcoming releases, and even recommendations for free games and games on sale. If you'd like to make the switch, doing so is easy. Opera GX is a quick import tool that lets you instantly get all of your bookmarks, browsing history, and cookies moved over. Plus, all of Chrome's extensions will work with Opera, you just have to go to the Chrome web store and grab them. Or if you don't want to do that, Opera has its own store for extensions too. And if you're a mobile user, then you're in luck! Opera GX is also available on iOS and Android. You can even connect the browser to your computer and send messages and files to and from each device. This is a super cool feature to take notes or store things you find on the go. If you'd like to check it out for yourself, use my link in the description. It's completely free and I can assure you it's a pretty good browser. All that said, on to the rest of the video. When you hear people talk about Legendary Rivals creators, a few names tend to pop up. People who've made dozens of characters, experimented with really cool and creative mechanics, and brought tons of interest to the game. However, there's a name that doesn't tend to get brought up in conversations as much, and that's RuberCuber. Honestly, I think the main reason for this is just people not emphasizing his name as much. From the very beginning, Ruber has created some of the most recognizable faces on the workshop, from the Untitled Goose to the Mettaton EX boss fight, and even helping with the recent Spamton mod. Chances are, you've seen or played a RuberCuber mod and haven't even realized it. So, what does a Ruber mod look like exactly? Well, Ruber's characters vary rapidly, with no real preference between OC or third-party characters. There's also not any real set archetype, with rushdowns, zoners, etc. all being present. However, Ruber's mods all have two major trademarks that make them distinct. One, Ruber's characters always feature a unique form of stage control. These tend to mimic the way basecast characters use their stage control objects, but the functionality is usually quite creative. The other sign of Ruber's handiwork is that usually, something about the mod is a groundbreaking innovation. Ruber's characters can feature super intricate code that leads to some insane gimmicks, making them tricky to master. Even Ruber's stages feature some of the most intricate mechanics and features. Without further ado, let's start looking at Ruber's amazing rogues gallery. Ruber's first character, Untitled Goose, is an aggressive rushdown that, true to their source game, is very, very annoying. As you'd expect from a bird, their aerials are fantastic. Forward air, neutral air, and up air are all great combo tools, and back air is a very strong kill move. Down air's dive bomb is a powerful stall and fall. Goose's strongs also boast great range, and are quite powerful. While the tilts are nothing to write home about, they do their job well, with dash attack especially sending at a very fun angle. However, what makes Goose terrifying is the down special, the walkie-talkie. While holding a walkie-talkie, Goose will deal reduced damage with their normals. However, using a strong will throw the walkie-talkie, doing a bit of damage and bringing Goose back to normal. While throwing a walkie-talkie can be a good combo extender on its own, the real reason you use them is in conjunction with the honk attack. Honking through a walkie-talkie will cause it to stun opponents for a bit before knocking them away. While this is difficult to just kill off of, it makes your opponent's lives just that much harder. Ideally, you want to set a walkie-talkie in a location outside of where you're mainly fighting to continue pressure from longer distances. You can set both walkie-talkies down for better coverage, or hold on to one for more accessibility to it. With this mechanic, Goose becomes a relentless thorn in your side, and while they're easy to knock away, they'll just keep attacking until you're worn out. So you know Eliana, right? The snake in the mech with the flying, the kill combos, and the missiles that just hit you out of your own combos. And you know Arcane, the annoying zoner with the ability to lock you down and kill you easily with some of the strongest moves in the game? Have you ever wondered what would happen if you combined these two war criminals together? No? Well, too bad, because that's what PANZER is. PANZER is a goldfish in a mech, and the unholy love child of two base cast characters. PANZER's mech uses a water tank cooling system that actually gives him two resources to manage. Water gives you access to the Arcane side of the dynamic, lets you amplify your aerials, shoot water missiles, and of course gives you powerful strong attacks. You only have a limited amount of water, but you can refill it by calling in an off-screen missile strike. You have to be quick though, as the cooling system converts water into steam over time. Steam provides the mobility in the dynamic. It lets you hover, accelerate to insane speeds with dash attack, and even lets you move during strong attacks. Balancing steam and water gives you a character with the mobility of Eliana and the power of Arcane, but reaching this state is such a tall order. Not only do you have to manage two resources, but there's also a third. You see, the missiles that the specials fire leave behind puddles. These can be absorbed with the strongs to gain back water, but they also have other uses. You can eject off stage and show up right back on the puddle, or you can evaporate the puddle into a giant steam cloud, making for a terrifying edgeguard. In all honesty, PANZER is a character that my footage and experience just can't do justice. Once you get him down, you can pressure your opponents with your short-ranged combo starters, and then end your opponents crazy fast with a forward air spike, or an up air juggle, or even just steam into up smash. The possibilities are endless with PANZER, and that's what makes him so cool. Probably the most iconic character here, Speedrunner Link took the world by storm when he released back in 2020. The goofy terminal montage Link was just something a lot of people got a lot of enjoyment out of, but I do think that people undersell him a bit. Part of what makes Speedrunner Link so good, aside from just the memes, is that he's a side of Link that we just don't normally see. Instead of the emerald-clad hero donning his trusty Master Sword, this Link is just a shirtless dude who fights with a woodcutter's axe and a pot lid. It's a very interesting side of the character, and it proves capable enough. Speedrunner Link's forward air is a huge button that combos and kills, and is a huge part of his neutral. The axe also helps for a lot of other neutral pokes, like forward tilt, and up air. However, the real highlight of Speedrunner Link is the use of the runes. The Magnesis rune summons a box from the sky that can be moved around and dropped on people. It acts as a platform as well. However, the box has unique interactions with two other major moves. The Upstrong Cryonis is an aimable pillar of ice. This can be used to launch the box and have it come slamming down quickly. By far the biggest interaction, though, is Magnesis. This can freeze other opponents in place, allowing you to wail on them for a powerful attack with a controllable angle. This also applies to the box, allowing for you to send it ramming into someone with insane force. Speedrunner Link is an absolute powerhouse, but that doesn't mean he's invincible. For one, his recovery is pretty atrocious. It can be cancelled into other moves, but that's just it. Neither of the options give you any height, and one of those options is actively detrimental. The shield bounce sends you soaring into the air, but if you miss it, you go nowhere and instead become super vulnerable. The move can be cancelled into from up B and dash attack, so be very careful not to miss it. Other than that though, Speedrunner Link is a very solid bruiser who can shred you if he gets in. Possibly one of the most complicated characters ever in Rivals and maybe even platform fighters in general, Ru and Zoe are a glass cannon duo that have a very unique playstyle. You see, Ru and Zoe are each their own character and control half of the moveset. Ru the Rushdown is the primary fighter of the two and controls the tilts and aerials. They're incredibly fast and they hit very hard, but their tiny size, while hard to hit, gives them some pretty stubby buttons. To compensate, Zoe, the zoner of the two, uses the strong and special buttons. They try to follow behind Ru, but they're a little slow. To compensate, their attacks have fantastic range and hit pretty hard. The trick to these two is understanding how to use them in conjunction. Both Ru and Zoe have solid lockdown moves, like down air and neutral special, that let them follow off of each other. From there, Ru can keep going with powerful combo moves like up tilt and up air, or you can just go for a raw finisher with Zoe's up strong or down strong. Down strong is actually a very interesting move, as it has a charging hitbox, making it multi-purpose. However, the worst part about these two has to be the recovery. Ru's recovery is fine enough. Down special causes Zoe to teleport them back on stage either above or in front of them, which, while predictable, works well enough. Zoe's, on the other hand, is this rocket boost back on stage, which can be quite readable and is very imprecise. Worse still, Zoe cannot wall jump, so if you fail to recover, they're dead. Ru still has plenty of ways to fight on their own, but without Zoe, they have no recovery. Worse still, Zoe's pathfinding can get them in rough situations without careful movement, so be very careful when moving the two around. I should mention that Ru is considered the main fighter, so if you lose Ru before Zoe, Zoe will self-destruct. If you like complicated duos, Ru-Zoe is a very great choice to try to master. They have great reward if you can master them, but it takes a lot of practice. Now, if you're looking for a simpler robot friend, look no further than Wally. And yes, that Wally. Wally is a heavy-hitting zone breaker with a pretty simple game plan. Get in and hit hard. Wally has some super strong normals in forward and back air, as well as great neutral pokes like forward tilt. All of Wally's strongs have great range too. Aside from normals, Wally has a simple but effective gimmick. They can place trash cubes down that function a lot like Krag's rocks. The cubes can be picked up and thrown as a projectile, allowing for safer approaches. When hit though, instead of shattering into pieces, it instead stays solid until it hits the ground, crumbling into dust. What makes this really interesting is the ability to charge the cubes, heating them up. This turns them into explosives on hit, making them a huge threat. They will explode over time though, so be very careful. The last major part of Wally's kit is summoning Eve. Eve shoots out a laser and is a powerful projectile to keep out on their own. When hitting the trash though, the explosion becomes even bigger, essentially giving Wally makeshift C4. This can be a very powerful tool to use on recovering opponents. In general, Wally is a very simple character and pretty easy to pick up and play. If you're a fan of the character, you should check this one out. Believe it or not, the reason I wanted to make this video in the first place was actually to talk more about CHESSPIECE, because I cannot stress enough how much I love this character. CHESSPIECE is a versatile jack-of-all-trades that can and will be several different archetypes during the match. You see, anytime CHESSPIECE pushes the attack button, it switches formations, which drastically changes its stats. Pawns are small and generally weaker, rooks have great ground speed and jump, but little air drift, knights are slidey and can triple jump, bishops can wave dash like crazy, kings are huge, heavy and slow, and the queen is good at everything. Each piece has its own special move too. Rooks fire multi-hit cannonballs, knights have rifles, bishops are homing missiles, and the king gets temporary super armor. The pawn, however, is special, as it does nothing until the pawn meter fills. When it does, it gets the ability to promote, becoming the powerful queen for a bit, which has a gigantic laser attack. If that wasn't crazy enough, the strongs all create a secondary piece. This piece can be swapped to with neutral special, and even activated remotely. Be careful though, as each piece can be destroyed, and has hit points corresponding to its chest score value. Hitting the piece around and the piece being destroyed can hurt both players too. CHESSPIECE is a crazy character, and there's a lot of combinations you can pull off with the various attack formations. Weirdly enough though, CHESSPIECE ends up being a very defensive character. You see, CHESSPIECE lacks a lot of reliable early kill options, at least raw. Dash attack can catch people off guard, Back air is a solid combo finisher, and Bishop's missile is powerful, but those are your best ways to take people out early. Because of the piece generation, the only strong that seems incredibly powerful for killing alone is down strong. However, CHESSPIECE's utility more than makes up for it. Not only does CHESSPIECE have fantastic combo starters in down tilt and up tilt, but also fantastic extenders in forward air and up air. The former is especially good since it leaves you in the ultra mobile knight form, but then CHESSPIECE's swap mechanic makes it almost impossible to pin down, giving free reign to break away from looser combos. You are left vulnerable for a bit, but you can humble the proud hard. Throw in some amazing pokes from any rooks and bishops left in reserve bombarding the battlefield, and you have one of the most interesting and chaotic characters in the game. As some of you know, a few months ago I ran a workshop jam with the goal to create an unorthodox character. Ruber entered and chose to take this in a pretty interesting direction. BARR is a character who is a pretty solid fundy sword fighter, but doesn't use a sword. Instead, he uses a much more unorthodox weapon. BARR fights with an actual energy meter. Landing sour spots causes it to go up, and landing sweet spots causes it to go down. Whether that's part of the bar is filled or not determines if it's a sweet or sour spot. This creates an ever-changing weapon to play around with. The changing bar makes it so that certain moves work better at certain times. Nair and up tilt are fantastic combo tools that help to build a lot of meter, whereas forward air, down air, forward strong, and down strong are all great ways to burn that meter. Of course, sweet spot or otherwise, your moves are never useless, but it is something to keep track of. If that lack of consistency bothers you, there are a few ways around it. First off, you can actually flip the bar around with down special. This changes whether the sweet spot is the tip or the hilt. Doing this will better help manage your effective ranges. In addition, you can throw out an energy orb. This can be kicked around with certain moves, dealing damage. When hit with the bar though, it will explode, causing the sweet spot hitbox to transfer to the full explosion. In addition, just having the orb out causes an energy shockwave when you flip the bar around, stunning opponents and setting up combos. In general, BARR tends to be a great starting point for players new to Workshop. There's a lot of intricacies that make him grow, but ultimately you can just start out mashing and just learn from there. As Ruber's contribution to the Smash Pack, Pit and Dark Pit take a lot of inspiration from their Smash incarnations. They're fast, all-rounder fighters with great combo tools like neutral air, up tilt, forward air, and up air. They also have great zoning with their bows and guns. Yes, both of them now wield a rifle as part of forward special, which can fire weak lasers or a massive killing shot. The other main difference from the Smash counterpart is that the Pits have a stage control option in the form of Guardian Orbitars. While they can be used as a shine, holding the button sends them out, allowing you to leave them in place on stage. While they're out, they'll act as a bumper, pushing away opponents and hit stun. More importantly, they reflect projectiles, allowing for some really cool trick shots. This gives Pit a whole other way to control the fight he didn't have before. If you're familiar with the Smash versions, you'll feel right at home. Like in Smash, Pit and Dark Pit aren't one-to-one clones of each other. Pit's arrows are slower and weaker, but have way more control than Dark Pit's fast and aggressive ones. Also, both characters have different variants of their strong attacks to play to their strengths. Pits are a little faster, but still quite strong, whereas Dark Pits are slow, but will destroy you. There's even a third Pit for SSL too. This Pit is more streamlined in the moveset and features the NES arrows. It even features Brawl's gliding. I highly recommend checking this out. And of course, our final character today is the lovable Spamton. This isn't actually entirely a Ruber character, as Gnome, Rega, Bernard, and Sack also worked on it, but the trailer is on Ruber's channel, so I think it counts. Spamton is a very interesting jack-of-all-trades character. I say that since while Spamton is decent at everything, instead of just being average, he takes tools from a lot of more extreme archetypes. He has grappling in the form of his jab, down air, up special, and forward special, but also crazy swordy pokes with up tilt, down tilt, up air, and forward strong. Regardless of what move you choose though, you will be gaining that sweet, sweet Cromer. Cromer is a very important resource for Spamton and allows him to enhance his kill moves with unique properties. He can also use Cromer to place a phone with an aura based on how much he spent for it. This doubles Cromer gained and halves Cromer spent. This magic number is especially scary when you realize that in the phone, the giant forward strong costs 100 and hitting it gives you 100. Just having the phone out makes neutral so much more rewarding. Being close to it helps a lot, but don't put all your eggs in one basket. Spamton's got some powerful and long combos, so don't be afraid to keep chasing. In general, Spamton's game plan makes him a little bit awkward, but very rewarding once you get things moving. And that's all the characters Ruber has made, but it's not all Ruber's known for. Ruber did get into stage coding and made some pretty cool stuff with that, specifically in the form of Undertale boss fights. Of course, the infamous Sans fight was recreated in all of its glory. You have items, can check your stats, you have a complete lack of mercy, and even an attack system, despite that not really mattering. Playing the whole fight in a platformer perspective is in some ways easier, but in others, much harder. I still haven't beaten it yet, though I've gotten to the halfway point, which I think is pretty good. You can even go in co-op if that's your thing. If you're looking for a more laid-back fight, you should look at Mettaton instead. This fight has way more moving parts that make it super impressive in the context of Rivals. You've got destructible blocks, moving legs, bombs, heart attacks, and so much more. Unlike Sans, there's even a pacifist route, so you can end the fight without lifting a finger if you wish. However, it's worth noting that this fight is definitely harder than its Undertale counterpart, for one major reason. You don't have any sort of projectile, and instead must resort to your fists to break the attacks. This can lead to a lot of damage if you're not careful. I think this fight is super cool, and might be my favorite boss in Rivals currently. Now, there's even a Mettaton Neo fight if you're into that, but that's, yay! Overall, Ruber's work continues to be hugely influential in the Rivals community. He shows no sign of stopping either, with steady progress on Greninja going strong. I absolutely love the work this community does, and I hope this video gave you an interesting look into how Ruber is part of that. Are there any other creators you'd like to see me showcase? Also, what do you think of this format? Let me know in the comments. With all that said, thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time.